So how this came about is, this is when Texas Kyle joined me, videographer.
I feel like people from Texas, like,
Is he,
they're ready for this.
You call him Texas Kyle? Is that
Texas
what
Kyle?
called?
Yeah.
Kyle Oberman.
I just feel like I know he's got a gun on him. Do you know what I mean? Like, when I think of these guys, they just open carry like this, going to the shop.
Yeah.
You know what? He's a hard guy as well. He was with me and he only anticipated to be with me for 4 days, lasted the full days, but whilst carrying a big heavy camera, whilst all of the rest of the crew were just sort of being evacuated, he was just like, he would slide down the landslide, like get back up, and he's still filming.
Call of Duty.
Like,
angles.
Just carries on no matter what.
Sick.
And so I was with him, and we came across a group of 4 older guys, and they were warning us of something, and we knew this, but I didn't know what he was saying. Kyle actually speaks fluent Mandarin, but not Tibetan, so he had no idea what they were saying. But he filmed it anyway. He captures everything. And so they're sort of doing these actions again, similar to the Mongolian. We were just like, Shishinis, Atian, bye-bye. We carried on walking. And for the next 2 days, we were followed in close proximity. We could just hear the wolves howling. And any distance that we covered, they were still the same amount of distance behind us for 2 whole days. Usually they cover further distance than humans. So we believe that they were following and looking for signs of weakness specifically. Anyway, fast forward 6 months, my editor from Beijing contacted me, speaks Tibetan, and pulls up this one clip. And she was saying, you had no idea what the guys were saying. I was like, no, clearly not. She said they were saying, do not go down that valley there. Only yesterday, a local was killed by a pack of wolves. Jesus. Whether it was the same pack or not, I don't know. But that was quite chilling because we were quite awe-inspired by it, a bit creeped at nighttime, a bit like, oh, they sound closer. But also awe-inspired, hearing the howls of wolves out in the wild was like, whoa, you felt so sort of insignificant and vulnerable. But then once we had learnt that, and we thought about that person being attacked and killed by a pack, you're just like, fucking hell.
And when you talk about that distance, are you thinking like a couple kilometers away, like a kilometer away? Like what distance is it?
Other side of the hill.
Yeah,
is how close they sounded. Yeah. So other side of the hill, you're talking within the kilometer. Yeah, I felt maybe within the 2 kilometers.
And you think they were just sort of stalking you guys down and should
waiting
you be tired or thinking like they just keep an eye out for that and waiting for the right moment to strike, and that just never really came for them.
We think not at first. At first, when we heard them howling, we thought nothing of it other than, oh, there's a pack of wolves somewhere in the distance. And then it's only when we continued to hear them howl for the next hour, then for the next 6 hours, then overnight, then the next morning, and then the next day, and we're just like, they must be looking at us. We can't see them, but they're so close, and they've followed us this whole time, 48 hours. They must be seeing us right now. And I was never really too worried because I didn't know the story beforehand about the lady or the local being killed. But it was only at that point we were kind of like, surely they wouldn't. That's too much of a risk for wolves to attack a person. It's rare that they'll attack, although it does happen. Canada, Alaska, very much known for wolf attacks. But we didn't really feel too worried. It just got a little bit creepy. It was only when we heard that story that we were like, okay, we probably got a little bit lucky. Yeah. We were in 2s. We had the rucksacks, which made us look bigger, and we weren't limping. We were feeling pretty fresh. So they were maybe looking at signs of limping or weakness, and they didn't see that. So then they went on to less risky prey.
And you mentioned about the Tibetan Mastiffs, and you said they were actually pretty terrifying.
They were terrifying.
So people who don't know what a Tibetan Mastiff is, it's a massive.
I saw the pictures earlier.
Like, here you go. Like these are pictures. I mean, they are no.
That ain't even a dog.
That looks like a bear, doesn't it?
That is insane.
That cannot be a dog.
Absolutely.
That one looked nice.
So tell me, like, you encountered these dogs? Are they wild? Are they like, what's the situation?
So Tibetan Mastiffs are semi-wild dogs. They are used as guard dogs by the locals living in their nomadic way of life, where the Tibetan Mastiffs are there outside all the time, staked in the ground, show no real comfort or affection by the locals. In the winter, -40, they sleep in the snow. In the summer, even with long fur, they're sleeping out in the extreme heat, and they are there to protect the livestock from snow leopards, wolves, and even bears, just to scare the bears off. And a lot of the time they were staked in the ground, but sometimes they weren't. And this one time that I remember the most is when I saw two girls with their Tibetan Mastiff, two ladies, and I just walked in shot. So I became visible to the Tibetan Mastiffs, and both of them just ran straight over. At first, I wasn't worried. I thought the chain's going to pull and they're just going to do a backflip. But I realized that there was no chain, and they were coming right for me. And then I saw the two girls getting up and panicking and screaming before the Tibetan Mastiff are even halfway to me. I was like, they're panicking. I should definitely be panicking. And that's it. I was more exhausted. It lasted about 2 minutes, and I was more exhausted after these 2 minutes than I was after a Muay Thai fight. They were on my case, trying to go for me. The first thing that I did was pick up rocks. You've got to throw rocks at them or hit them with a stick, anything to just keep them away. And I threw the rocks and I got them, but they didn't care. They were back at me, and they were so close, maybe 2 foot from me, that I couldn't now bend down to pick up any more rocks. And I still had the rucksack on my back. So I'm pretending to throw rocks, screaming, shouting, trying to kick. I had to roundhouse kick a Tibetan in the head. It gave out a yelp, came straight back to me, and I was trying to keep the two mastiffs in front of me. I was just like, please don't slip behind. And one of them got behind. So now I was just like, throwing, kicking, like turning back. And it went on for about 2 minutes. The ladies were trying to grab the dog, but the dog turned around, barked at them, and they were like, they didn't know what to do. And I was livid. And I know that I'm this outsider in there. They could have never anticipated that. I was just livid because it was the adrenaline and oh my God.
Have they killed many humans?
Scrapped a couple of these.
Tibetan Mastiffs killed any humans?
Oh, you know what? Surely.
Yeah.
Surely. I think there were probably more attacks. Absolutely more attacks from Mastiff than wolves.
Yeah. I was going to say, I would imagine it's just one of those, like, it happens out in these places where...
Off the radar.
Yeah, like, what fucking... If you had died in there, maybe because you're from here, would have got reported. But if it's just somebody else that's, a local, whatever, it's not getting logged as a Mastiff.
Yeah,
no.
Wild.
100%. They go after anything as well. They tried to... So the team crew bought a horse with them to carry their stuff. And when the team crew were... the film crew, were evacuated, they left this donkey, this horse with us, and even the Tibetan Mastiffs would go after this horse, and they would face a kick to the head, and they would like yelp and go straight back at it. I'm like, savages.
Yeah,
honestly, they're brutal. They were bad in Mongolia as well, but I don't know, on the plateau they just seemed a little bit unhinged.
Yeah,
you'd always get that adrenaline. You see the dog and you're like,
long day.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah.
So you sort of get to the end of your Yangtze experience. I mean, I feel like I jumped through a lot of time there.
No worries.
But what was that feeling like? Because that had been your longest challenge away from home, everything that you'd known.
Yeah.
Again, is it like that week leading up to it? It's just like a level of euphoria, almost like I'm flying through this last week.
Yeah, it was that, but it was also really sort of painful the whole last month, because it was the last month that I was most bored. I was now on a tarmac road. I was now coming across cities.
And that's kind of what you wanted to avoid. That's one of the reasons why you started these challenges.
Yeah, so I was kind of like, oh God, here we go. And I knew I had completed it. Same thing like with Mongolia, but I've still got a whole month left.
Got you.
So I've completed it because nothing's stopping me now. But every single day, and I was doing big mileage as well, just because that, it must be, I think the most I did was 90 something kilometers. What's that
in one day?
It's like 60 miles.
In the one day.
It's about 40, 50 miles, isn't it? I think.
No, more than that. It's 0.6 miles
0.6
to the kilometer.
Yeah, so it would have been that. I remember
about 55.
Yeah. Just flying.
Mega.
No, the rucksack's a lot smaller now. Waking up 3 a.m. just because you're wide awake and you're just like, boom, clean Tom Road all the way. And was just able to smash out distance just because I wanted to get to the end as well. Yeah. Because I didn't like that last month.
Because all the challenge, I suppose, had happened early on in that in that, you know, we are in the sticks.
Now it became a walk.
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
Just a long old walk every day. Yeah.
No, maybe it was less than 90 kilometers.
But we
It's about 40 something miles. So whatever 40 something miles is.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Still crazy numbers.
Yeah, it's still a lot. Yeah.
Still more than what I'm doing.
Yeah, I'll walk 5K and go, hey, fucking hell, I'll put the numbers on a clock.